Hello friends, welcome to the Point. In today's session, let's discuss about the beginning of modern nationalism in India. So what do you think would be the factors in the growth of modern nationalism in India? So there are a lot of factors like the rise and growth of Indian nationalism. It has been traditionally explained in the terms of Indian response to the stimulus that was generated by the British Raj through a creation of new institutions, new opportunities, resources and so on. So we can also say that Indian nationalism, it grew partly as a result of colonial policies and partly it was a reaction to colonial policies. It would be more correct to see Indian nationalism as a product of mix of various factors like the worldwide upsurge of the concepts of nationalism and the right of self-determination that was initiated by French Revolution and Indian Renaissance, offshoot of modernization that was initiated by British in India, and strong reaction to British imperialistic policies in India. So let's understand the contradictions in Indian and colonial interest. So people, they came to realize that colonial rule, it was the major cause of India's economic backwardness. And the interest of the Indians, it involved the interest of all sections and classes like peasants, artisans, handcraftsmen, workers, intellectuals, the educated people as well as the capitalists. The nationalist movement, it arose to take up the challenge of these contradictions which were inherent in the character and policies of colonial rule. Political, administrative and economic unification of the country. So during the British rule in the Indian subcontinent, the British rule was extended from Himalayas in the north to the Cape Comorin in the south and from Assam in the east to Khyber Pass in the west. And there were a large areas in India that had been brought under a single rule in the past also. So they were the Mauryas and also the Mughals. The British, they created a larger state than Mauryas and Mughals. The Indian provinces, it were under the direct British rule and the princely states were under indirect British rule. The British sword, it imposed political unity in India. A professional civil service, a unified judiciary and a codified civil and criminal laws. It was throughout the length and breadth of the country, and that imparted a new dimension of political unity and cultural unity that existed in India for centuries. The necessity of administrative convenience and the consideration of military defense and the urge of economic penetration and commercial exploitation, it was the driving forces behind the planned development of modern means of transport and communication such as railways, roads, electricity and telegraph. So from the nationalist point of view, this process of unification, it had twofold effect. The first is the economic fate of the people of different regions, it got linked together. For example, the failure of crops in one area or a region, it affected the prices and supply in the other area or region. And the modern means of transport and communication, it brought people together. So especially it brought the leaders from different regions. and this was important for the exchange of political ideas and for mobilization and organization of public opinion on political and economic issues. Western thought and education. So, the introduction of modern system of education, it gave opportunities for modern Western ideas also, and this it gave a new direction to political thinking. And the English system of education, it had been conceived by the rulers in the self-interest of efficient administration. The liberal and radical thought of European writers like Milton, Shelley and John Stuart Mill, Spencer and so on, they helped many Indians to imbibe modern rational, secular, democratic and nationalistic ideas. The English language, it helped nationalist leaders from different linguistic regions to communicate with each other. And those educated who took up liberal professions like lawyers and doctors, they visited England for higher education, and there they saw the working of modern political institutions in a free country, and they compared that system with our Indian system. And while comparing, they observed that we Indian citizens, we was completely denied even from the basic rights. And this ever expanding English educated class, they formed the middle class intelligentsia, and they constituted the nucleus for newly arising political interest. And it was this section of people, they provided leadership to Indian political association. The role of press and literature during nationalism. The second half of 19th century, it saw an unprecedented growth of Indian owned English and vernacular newspapers. So there were lot of restrictions that imposed on the press by the colonial rulers, and in 1877 there were about 169 newspapers that were published in different languages, and their circulation around the neighborhood, it reached among 1 lakh. The press, they criticized official policies on the one hand, they also urged the people to unite on the other hand, and this helped to spread the modern ideas of self-government, democracy, civil rights and industrialization. The newspapers, journals, pamphlets and nationalistic literature, it helped in the exchange of political ideas among nationalist leaders from different regions. Rediscovery of the India's past. The historical researches by European scholars like Max Muller, Monier Williams, Roth and Sassoon, and the Indian scholars like R.G. Bhandarkar, R.L. Mitra and later Swami Vivekananda, they created a new picture of India's past, and this picture, it was characterized by a well-developed political, economic and social institutions, a flourishing trade with the outside world, a rich heritage in arts and culture and numerous cities. And this theory put forward by European scholars that Indo-Aryans, they belonged to same ethnic group from which other nations of Europe had evolved, and they gave a psychological boost to educated Indians. The self-respect and confidence that gained, it helped the nationalists to demolish colonial myths that India had a long history of servility to foreign rulers. Progressive character of socio-religious reform movements. So this progressive character of socio-religious reform movement, it sought to remove some social evils which divided the Indian society. And this had the effect of bringing different sections of people together. And this was one of the important factor in the growth of Indian nationalism. Rise of middle class intelligentsia. British administrative and economic innovations, it gave rise to a new urban middle class in towns. And according to Percival Spear, this new middle class, there was a well integrated all India class, and they were with a varied background but a common foreground of knowledge, ideas and values. This people was a minority of Indian society, but with a dynamic minority, and it had a sense of unity of purpose and hope. This class, it was a very prominent class because of its education, new position and its close ties with ruling class, that is with the British people, and they came to forefront. The leadership to the Indian National Congress in all its stages of the growth, it was provided by this class people. Impact of contemporary movements in the world. So there was a rise of number of nations on the ruins of Spanish and Portuguese empire in South America, and the national liberation movements of Greece and Italy in general and of Ireland, it deeply influenced the nationalistic ranks. Reactionary policies and racial arrogance of rulers. Racial myths of white superiority. The Indians felt deeply hurt by this racial myths of white superiority. Lytton's reactionary policies like reduction of maximum age limit for Indian civil service examination from 21 years to 19 years in the year 1876, and the Grand Delhi Darbar of 1877, when the country was in the severe grip of famine, and the Vernacular Press Act 1878 and the Arms Act 1878. All this provoked an opposition in the country towards the British. And then came the Ilbert Bill controversy. Ripon's government, they sought to abolish judicial disqualification, which was based on race distinctions, and to give the Indian members of the covenanted civil service the same powers and rights that was enjoyed by their European colleagues. And Ripon, he had to modify the bill, almost defeating the original purpose because of the stiff opposition from European community. And then it became clear to the nationalists that justice and fair play, it could not be expected where interests of the European community were involved. And they organized agitations by the Europeans to revoke the Ilbert Bill, and they also taught the nationalists how to agitate for certain rights and demands. Political associations before the Indian National Congress. So the Indian National Congress, it was not the first political organization in India. Most of the political association in the early half of the 19th century, it were dominated by wealthy and aristocratic elements, and they were local or regional in character. Through long petitions to the British Parliament, most of them demanded administrative reforms and association of Indians with the administration and the spread of education. The political association of the second half of the 19th century, it was increasingly dominated by educated middle class peoples like lawyers, journalists, doctors, teachers and so on, and they had a wider perspective and a larger agenda. Political associations in Bengal. The Banga Bhasha Prakashika Sabha, this was formed in 1836 by the associate of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. The Jamindari Association, and this was popularly known as Landholders Society. This was founded to safeguard the interest of the landlords. The Bengal British India Society. This was founded in the year 1843, and the objective of this was the collection and dissemination of information that related to the actual condition of people of British India, and also to employ other means of peaceful and lawful character that may appear calculated to secure the welfare, and it extended the rights and advance the interest of all classes of Indian subjects. The British Indian Association. In 1851, both Landholders Society and Bengal British Indian Society, they merged into British Indian Association. And this association, it sent a petition to British Parliament demanding inclusion of some of its suggestions in the Charter of the Company Act, like establishment of separate legislature, separation of executive from judicial functions, reduction in salaries, abolition of salt duty, and so on. The East India Association, it was organized by Dadabhai Naoroji in 1866 in London, and this was to discuss the Indian questions and influence public men in England to promote Indian welfare. The Indian League, it was started in 1875 by Sisir Kumar Ghosh with the object of stimulating the sense of nationalism among the people and for encouraging political education. The Indian Association of Calcutta, which is also known as Indian National Association, this superseded the Indian League, which was founded in 1876 by younger nationalists of Bengal, which was led by Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bose. The Indian National Association, it was the most important of pre-Congress association, and it aimed to promote legitimate means of political, intellectual and material advancement of the people. Political associations in Bombay. The Pune Sarvajanika Sabha. This was founded in 1867 by Mahadev Govind Ranade and others, with the object of serving as a bridge between the government and the people. The Bombay Presidency Association, it was started by Badruddin Tyabji, Firozshah Mehta and K.T. Telang in 1885. Political associations in Madras. The Madras Mahajan Sabha, which was founded in 1884 by Veera Raghavachari, B. Subramani Iyer and P. Ananda Charlu. Pre-Congress campaigns. The associations, it organized many campaigns before Indian National Congress appeared on the scene, and the campaigns were for imposition of import duty on cotton in the year 1875, for Indianization of government services, and against Lytton's Afghan Adventure, and against Arms Act, against Vernacular Press Act, for the right to join volunteer corps, and against plantation labour, and against Inland Emigration Act, and in support of Ilbert Bill, and for an All India Fund of Political Agitation, campaign in Britain to vote for Pro-India Party, and against reduction in maximum age for appearing in civil services. So the Indian Association, it took up this question and organized an All India agitation against it, and popularly this was known as Indian Civil Service Agitation. So in the next session, let's discuss about the Indian National Congress, its foundation and the moderate phase. Thank you.